Hi, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. It is my great pleasure and honor to be able to introduce this evening's speaker, and I'm so excited to be able to do it. Archbishop José Gómez has served as the leader of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, the largest Catholic community in the United States, since March 2011. A native of Monterrey, Mexico, he had previously served as Auxiliary Bishop of Denver from 2001 to 2005, then as Archbishop of San Antonio from 2005 to 2010, after which he was coadjutor Archbishop of Los Angeles from 2010 to 2011. Throughout his ministry, and especially over the past 10 years, Archbishop Gómez, as I'm sure you all probably know, has been a passionate advocate for immigration reform and has sought to promote and uphold the leadership of Hispanics and women in the Church by founding the group CALL, which stands for the Catholic Association of Latino Leaders, and the group ENDOW, which stands for Educating on the Nature and Dignity of Women. Additionally, Archbishop Gómez has worked tirelessly to uphold marriage and family life and to encourage vocation to the priesthood and religious life. In 2012, he participated in the Synod on the New Evangelization for the Transmission of the Christian Faith at Pope Benedict XVI's personal request. And in 2015, he represented the United States bishops at the World Meeting of Families and the Synod on the Vocation and Mission of the Family in the Church and in the Contemporary World. The Archbishop's numerous publications articulate his compassionate pastoral approach to Hispanic Catholic ministry, as well as to marriage, family, and vocational formation. And his many leadership appointments, including to the Pontifical Commission for Latin America, the Pontifical Council for Social Communications, and most recently as Vice President of the United States Conference for Catholic Bishops, USCCB. These testify not only to his effectiveness in his ministry, but also to the high regard in which he is held by church leaders and his flock alike. I have to add a personal note, if he doesn't mind. For many years, Archbishop Gómez and I served together on the USCCB Committee on Doctrine, he as a member and myself as a consultant. One time we had a joint lunch meeting with another committee. I remember this so vividly. I had walked away for a second from the table where we were sitting and came back thinking I probably had better bust my tray, only to notice it was gone, and so was Archbishop Gómez. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him across the room returning my tray. It was very moving to me. It reminded me of the one who came not to be served, but to serve. I should have thanked him then, but I'd like to thank him now. But without further ado, please join me in welcoming Archbishop José Gómez for his talk this evening on the pastoral state of marriage and family today.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you, John, for that presentation. And we had a great time at the Doctrine Committee. We always were making sure that Catholic doctrine is okay. So it's great to be with all of you this evening. Thank you for the invitation to share some thoughts on the reality of family and ministry of family in the church. I have to say that, first of all, it's late. I mean, it's after dinner, so I'm not sure how long you want to pay attention to me. So you need to just relax and ignore me. That'll be fine. Then there are, I guess, different conferences together this evening. So, like I understand, there are some that are interested in liturgy, So I'm not going to talk too much about liturgy. I will mainly about the family, marriage and the family. So somehow we got to get the liturgy in there. So that's going to be your homework. So anyway, it's great to be with all of you. And as John said, I had the privilege to represent the American bishops at both the Synod on the Family in 2015 and last year's Synod on Young People. And in my daily ministry in Los Angeles, the issues of marriage, family, and children are very close to my heart, as I will try to explain this evening. But first, I want to start a conversation tonight by talking about a movie. So I saw that something was going over there, so I was hoping that they show the movie, but I don't think it's going to be possible. So the movie is a movie called First Reform. It came out last year. It was about a Protestant pastor named Reverend Ernest Toller and a John married couple that he is counseling. I have to say that it is not a movie that I necessarily recommend, but it is one of those movies that I think reflects the spirit of the age we are living in. As the movie begins, the woman, whose name is Mary, comes to Reverend Toller because she's pregnant and her husband, Michael, wants her to have an abortion. Michael is an intense, dark character. He belongs to something called the Green Planet Movement, and he's passionately convinced that it is wrong to bring a child into this world. So he confesses his despair to Reverend Toller. He talks about oceans rising, extreme weather, species going out of existence. He believes that in our lifetime, drought and famine are going to spread, causing the political order to break down. As climate change refugees take to the streets, fighting for food. In his anguish, Michael challenges his pastor. He tells the pastor, "How can you sanction bringing a child full of hope and naive belief into the world?" He continues to say, "When that little girl grows to be a young woman and looks you in the eyes and says, 'You knew all along, didn't you?' And he asks the pastor, 'Why do you say that?' Of course, this is not just a scene from a movie. These same kind of bleak scenarios are being put out daily in newspapers and magazines, in books, in the media, in classrooms. And it is true, as our Holy Father Pope Francis continues to warn us. Climate change is a real threat, and we have a responsibility to the generations that come after us. But today, we are looking at a future generation in which there may be far fewer children. Like Michael in this movie, many young people are debating whether it is ethical to have kids in an age of global warming. There is an even larger conversation going on among millennials about the value of starting a family. Just Google that simple question. Should I have kids? The answers are very sad. The results that come back Googling that are just horrible. But not only that, just think about it. It is sad how many people are asking these kinds of questions. And the truth is this: For whatever reasons, people have already stopped having children. Birth rates are declining dramatically, not only in our country, but in nations across the West. So my point is this. Usually, when we talk about the state of the family, we talk about a cluster of issues: contraception and abortion, divorce rates, out-of-wedlock births, people living together rather than getting married. We talk about the growth of same-sex unions and the confusion about sex that we see in our society. All of these issues, as we know, are important. It's important to understand them. They represent a true crisis of the family in our times. But to my mind, this one issue, our culture's deep uncertainty about children, tells us far more about the state of the family today. Because our society has rejected what 20 centuries of Christian civilization consider a basic fact of nature, that most men and women will find their life's purpose in forming loving marriages, working together, sharing their lives, and raising children. Now, marriage, family, and children have all become an open question, a choice that individuals must decide for themselves. This is the culture that we are living in. And the question for us is, how are we going to live as Christians in this culture? And how are we going to raise our children and evangelize this culture? In these times, what case can we make for marriage, for the family, for children? This is what it's all about in a society that is becoming more and more a secular society. So, as a practical matter tonight, I want to suggest two basic directions for the church and for Christian families. But before that, I want to share with you a little bit of what we are trying to do in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. As John said, and you know, Los Angeles is the largest Catholic community in the United States with about 5 million Catholics. And we are a young church, a church of immigrants and emerging communities. It is hard to imagine, just think about it, but we serve our people every day in more than 40 languages. We are also baptizing about 50,000 infants every year. 50,000. That's a lot. Far more than any other diocese in the country. But these are not just numbers for us. These are souls entrusted by God to our care. And as a pastor, I do not want a single one to be lost. In the Archdiocese, since I got there, I have 5 pastoral priorities. And one of them is promoting marriage and the family as sacred institutions and the heart of a civilization of love. We have established a strong office of marriage and family life in the Archdiocese, and this office has an important emphasis in supporting parishes and pastors. And to me, that's the key. It's not about the chancery office of the Archdiocese. It's about the parish. This is where people live their faith, day in and day out. I was thinking that I'm not sure every Catholic knows who their Archbishop is. But I'm sure that those who are engaged in their faith know what parish they belong to and who the pastor is. At least they don't know, they know he's the pastor or the associate, but they know the name of the priest. So in the Archdiocese, what I'm trying to do together with my auxiliary bishops, the priests and all the faithful in the Archdiocese, is to encourage the ministries and initiatives in our parishes. Just to give you an example, at our cathedral, we have a group. I'm talking about especially ministry to marriage and the family. Our cathedral, we have a group that meets once a month called Cathedral Couples for Christ. And we have many parishes trying to do something similar, to have something specific, a small community, in a sense, for newly married couples. So we have many other parishes trying to help young married couples, offering these small communities and fellowship. Obviously, I'm also encouraging marriage and family ministries like the Christian Family Movement, Worldwide Marriage Encounter, and Endow that John mentioned, which engages women in understanding what St. John Paul called the feminine genius. So, I will urge all of you who are working in these areas of catechesis and liturgy and pastoral formation, stay connected and help people to be connected and involved with the parishes. This is where the church mission really comes alive. So we think of the reality of the society in which we live, and we think of how we can do it. Obviously, for me, the place is the parish. And because for me, in my opinion, forming small faith communities is essential. And then the other thing that I think is important for all of us to find a way to do it is to give continuity to the ministry and formation that we have in our parishes. I always talk to the people in the Archdiocese about the reality that we have in the tradition of the Church in the United States, and that we prepare people for sacraments, we prepare people for marriage. Give you an example. They are in the program for whatever 9 months, and then they get married, and we don't know about them again until they have kids. So they come back, they stay there for a few preparation for marriage, they baptize their baby, and we don't see them until First Holy Communion, correct? We are lucky. Okay, so they receive First Holy Communion, and we don't see them again until confirmation. No? And then they go to confirmation, we don't see them until they get married. Doesn't make sense to me. We need to find a way to give continuity to what we are doing. We need to see it, especially preparation for marriage, as the beginning of a relationship. We need to find ways to nurture that relationship, to support the couples as they are going through those first years of marriage. And then keep going, because that's the way that we can really help people to understand and live their faith. So that's what we are trying to do in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. I mean, it is obviously a challenge for all of us, as it is for any diocese in the country. But I think given the reality of what is happening in our society, is so important that we start thinking in new ways that we can really reach out and help people to understand the beauty of our Catholic faith. As I always say, this is just water, eh? It's not tequila. So. So this is kind of the outline of the pastoral strategy that I recommend, and that's what we are trying to do in Los Angeles. Now, let me turn to 2 ideas that I think are important in our evangelization of the family. First, I believe we need to rediscover the radical newness of the Christian message about the family. When St. Paul said, "Husbands, love your wives, as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her," He was announcing a revolution in human thought and human society. Before Christianity, no one had ever spoken about marriage in terms of a love that lasts a lifetime, or as a calling from God, or as a path that can lead to holiness and salvation. It was a new and exciting idea to speak of man and woman becoming one flesh and participating in God's own act of creating new life. The first Christians evangelized by the way they lived. And the way they lived was to be in this world, but not of this world. They lived the same lives as their neighbors, but in a different way. They entered into marriage as a lifelong relationship of friendship and mutual devotion. And they considered it a sacrament, a mysterious sign of God's love for his people. They rejected birth control and abortion and welcomed children in joy as a gift from God, and treated them as precious persons to be loved and nurtured and brought up in the ways of the Lord. The first Christian families changed the world simply by living the teachings of Jesus and his church. And my dear friends, we can change the world again by following the same path. I have these beautiful words of Tertullian that he wrote to his wife. They're a little too long, but if you have patience, I think it's worth it to read them. He wrote, "How beautiful the marriage of two Christians, sharing one hope, one desire, one way of life. They are truly two in one flesh. And where the flesh is one, the Spirit is one also. They pray together, worship together, fast together, instructing one another, encouraging one another, strengthening one another. Side by side, they visit God's church and partake of God's banquet. Side by side, they face difficulties and persecution, share their consolations. They have no secrets from one another. They never bring sorrow to each other's heart. They visit the sick and assist the needy. Hearing and seeing this, Christ rejoices." That's what the first Christians live. Tertullian was describing what he saw in the lives of the first Christian. In that way, isn't it true that we can change the world again? My second point is that we need to recover the Christian narrative, the Christian vision for life and human happiness. The truth is that we have allowed our technological civilization and consumer economy to shape our priorities and ideas about what is real and true, and about what gives life meaning. But as Christians, we are the keepers of the real truth about human life and human destiny, the amazing reality that we're all made by a God who loves us as a father and calls us to live as one family. I was thinking this weekend, the celebration of the solemnity of the Blessed Trinity, those beautiful words of St. John Paul II from the beginning of his pontificate. Our God, and I'm quoting, our God is in his deepest mystery is not a solitude, but a family. Since he has in himself fatherhood, sonship, and the essence of the family, which is love. So we need to tell this good news to our neighbors, that this God of love, who created the galaxies and oceans and mountains in the beginning, is still at work today, still creating. Everything that is comes from the thought of his love. And that means, my dear friends, your life and my life. And that means the life of the child who is somewhere being born in this instant. The love of God. And God intends his plan for creation, for history to unfold through the human family. It makes sense. This is why the Bible begins with a wedding. The marriage of Adam and Eve in the garden. And this is why the Bible's final pages again show us a wedding. The marriage supper of Jesus Christ and his bride, his church, at the end of time. From the beginning, God is creating from out of all the peoples of the earth one single family, the family of God, his church. So, it's not an accident that Jesus comes into this world born of a mother's womb and raised in a human family. And it's no coincidence that he performs his first public miracle at a wedding. So this is the story that has been entrusted to us. And this is why what you do in your own homes and what you are doing in your ministries to support marriage and families is so important. God is inviting all of us to participate in the mystery of his own work of creation and his own plan for the redemption of the world. We are called to help every married couple realize this vocation, to live their love forever in a mutual and complete gift of self, to renew the face of the earth with children. We are the fruits of their love and the precious love of our Creator. It's a beautiful plan of God for creation, for the human person, for the church, for each one of us. So let me try to gather my thoughts and offer a few conclusions. I'm not done yet, so I still have some more ideas to share with you, but I think it's good if we can try to see exactly where we are going. So I started tonight by talking about a movie in which a young man named Michael argues passionately that it is wrong to bring a child into this world. And as I said, I believe the church, and that means all of us, needs to speak to all the Michaels in our society today. A society where children are no longer being born is a society where people no longer understand what makes life worth living or what gives life meaning. But you and your families, the ministries we promote in our parishes and dioceses, we are the answer to this challenge. And it's not just about giving birth to children. It is about hope. It is about living with confidence in God's providence, knowing that he loves us and will never abandon us, no matter what this world may bring. God's sign for the world was a child, his only begotten Son. Those beautiful words from the angels to the shepherds. And this will be a sign for you. You will find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes and laying in a manger. Every child who is born is also a sign of God's love, a mystery, a gift, a miracle. In every child, even those in the womb, we glimpse the mystery of Christ's child, in whom we come to know God. So, it seems to me that it's important for us to understand how important this is. So as I'm reflecting on all this, I was thinking that my first resolution is personal. is a prayer for you. And it is this. If you are married, love your spouse with a great affection and raise your children well. Work for them. Sacrifice for them. Teach them to talk to God and listen for His calling in their lives. We cannot be afraid to call our young people to greatness, to be saints. And if you are ministering to families, my prayer is that you will teach them the little way of the Holy Family. Jesus lived for 30 years in a hidden life in His home in Nazareth. He did this to teach us that the little unseen things that parents do every day, earning a living, making meals and doing the housework, taking the kids to church and confession, saying prayers at bedtime, these are all essential to the church's mission. These are all part of God's loving plan for the world's redemption. As we know, the early Christians spoke of the family as the domestic church. And this is the way for us to think about our own families and about the mission of the family in our culture today. And I have to share with you that I had the blessing of having a family like that. My parents and my four sisters, they were just beautifully, in a very simple way, and very ordinary, nothing extraordinary, just trying to be good Catholic family. So I began with the fictional story of a married couple, Mary and Michael. Let me close with the story of a real married couple. The servants of God, Eugenio Balmori Martinez and Marina Francisca Cinta Sarelange. They were married in Veracruz, Mexico, 1937. Marina and Eugenio worked hard and sacrificed to give their 5 children a Catholic education. They endured the hardships that many couples go through. Stress about the kids, unemployment, long periods of separation because of Eugenio's job. Then even more challenging, Eugenio died suddenly in a car crash at age 46. And Marina lived for the next 40 years as a widow and single mother, working hard to earn a living, continuing to serve her children at her church. And I want to leave you with some words from Marina. On the eve of their wedding, she wrote to Eugenio, I quote, "Our home will be a chapel of love where no other ideal will reign other than to thank God and to love each other very much." My friends, these words are God's promise. His answer to the challenges of the culture we are living in. The answer is this: life is not ours to sanction or command. Life is a beautiful gift. The child received by a husband and wife is as beautiful and precious as anything we find in nature. By the love in our homes, by the sacrifices we make, and the love that we hold in our hearts and pass on to our children, we are called to testify to this God who is our Creator and Father. This God who holds all of this world and every one of us in His loving hands. This is our Father's plan for your family and for every family. And this is the mission of His church. Thank you for listening.